that I didn't fill it. But all right.
That's all good. Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to the second episode of Chaz and Friends. I have here my special guest, Drew from Drew's Book Reviews, and I am so excited to have him join me. Um, just make sure that you do all the fun stuff like I talk about, like, subscribe, comment away. We're open to comments on the stream. And I'm gonna hand it over to Drew to tell us a little bit about his channel.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to this stream. To all those that are watching on the replay, thanks so much for having me, Chaz. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And sorry about my blurry image because my webcam on this computer sucks. But yeah, it's great. I've got my channel, Drew's Book Reviews and Other Bookish Things, as I do talk more than just book reviews. And yeah, science fiction, fantasy, some nonfiction mixed in there. I've had a few adaptation talk videos, things like that. And overall, yes, a lot of fun. I started doing this booktube thing coming up 5 years. Speaking of which, next Sunday on my channel, I'm going to be having a 5 year booktube anniversary stream. I'm going to be going back and watching my first video ever, which believe me is cringy and horrible, but it's going to be fun. I'm going to watch that live on the stream. So definitely, you want to check that out, join me over there next week. And yeah, if you like science fiction, fantasy, all that good stuff, I post videos every single Friday, and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Really excited. 5 years on BookTube. That's a huge milestone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely is. And it's like, wow, has it been 5 years already? I've actually been book blogging since 2013, apparently. I actually have an old
Oh, wow.
WordPress site where I did written reviews, but
Right.
eventually I figured out that I really suck at the writing part because, as much as I read, apparently my grammar's terrible and I'm
Okay.
horrible at editing. And so
Nice.
I'm like, maybe I should just do videos instead. I mean, gonna nobody's going to bug you about how poorly you spell some words if you're talking because
Right.
you can't see it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's cool. I experimented with book blogging for a while, and then like I only made like a few posts or so, and then I'm like, I mean, I didn't have a grammar issue, but it was just it wasn't something I felt like I could keep up with at the time. So BookTube has worked out really good for me. Hey, we got Jonathan in the house. What's up, Jonathan? Glad to see you here.
Hey, Jonathan, how's it going? Actually, it's funny. I found that actually writing up a blog post on a book seems to take more time
It
than just
does.
making a video. Between the initial draft and trying to edit it and getting it cleaned up and posted, it actually, I could film and edit a video within 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But a blog post, like I'd be writing out notes and then I'd be trying to formulate that into a way that would make sense to someone reading it, not me just reading my notes and know what I'm talking about and then editing it. So I'd spend 2 or 3 days on one post where now I can, have a video filmed, edited, and uploaded within a day easy. So,
Exactly.
and it's funner too because I get to use my green screen and do fun stuff with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I still need to talk to you about the whole green screen thing. I've experimented like with green screens that you can get off the internet and like plug into your video in the editing process and try and figure that whole thing out. But I haven't done it yet.
Oh, it's easier if you have your own, and really, like, you don't need
Yeah.
any specialized sheet, just a green sheet, or really
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be green. It could really be any color. Green screen's just the terminology, and then you just chroma key out that color in the background and done. I
Yeah.
have used like I have Googled a few images on green screen, like zombie on green screen, Android on green screen, just something that I could kind of plug in over and
Yeah.
filter out the green on some of my videos. So I have done that. Okay, I did that for the HP Lovecraft video. Actually, I had kind of a zombie in the submarine, and
I remember that.
I just
Yeah.
googled zombie on green screen image, and that one came back. So I plugged that into the video using that. But when I want to be on the green screen, so when I want to put that background behind me, it's I just got a big green sheet that I put up behind where I'm filming and just go with that. So I'm trying to do that more with the actual book reviews using the green screen. So I like having, images and pictures of the book behind me in that sense.
Right.
Then it's easier to film in the room where I don't have a bookshelf,
Right.
because, less
Exactly.
distraction. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's fun.
cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the only thing I've got that I regularly use on my videos for green screen effect is my little subscribe pop-up, that comes up on my videos. That's a green screen effect, and I just chroma key that out. But good stuff. Hey, there's Danielle. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Hey, how's it going, Bookchara?
Yeah, yeah. Make sure to check her channel out too. Bookcar's an amazing channel. And we got Anonymous in the house. Welcome, welcome.
Fantastic. I'm still
Yeah.
looking forward to getting to Gurzel.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through it right now and enjoying myself. So
Yeah. How you
um
liking it?
hey, welcome, Corey. I'm liking it okay. I'm still kind of getting through it and see what I think overall, but so far yeah, I'm enjoying what I'm reading. There's a lot of good history in it and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll do a full review for it when I'm finished. But so far, yeah, and the Gurzel's cool, a very cool dragon. So
Well, I just love the eye image on the cover.
yeah, yeah, that's cool,
Which,
right?
for those watching, Gurzel is Anonymous's book, which if you just go to Amazon, you'll find it there. I
Yep,
haven't read it yet,
exactly.
but I will be reading it soon, I expect. But for those watching, go to Amazon, just search Gurzel Anonymous. You'll see it there. That's what we're talking about. And Anonymous has been kind enough to send art copies to a few different booktubers. So definitely be sure to check that out.
Yeah, yeah, it's very very exciting. I think his book just released on the second, officially. I think so. Your
Yeah,
copy's
that,
coming
that's
here.
that's my understanding. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so
Gonna try
yeah,
and
it's
squeeze it into my April TBR with any luck, or maybe if I somehow manage to have time at the end of March, hopefully. So
yeah. I wanted to do it in February, and then just February was just a crazy month, so I didn't get to it. And February being a short month too, it's like there's just no way. So
see, this monster of a book, I wanted to read in February, but didn't get to it.
that
So
is a monster of a book.
I'm
I've
about
I've heard.
350 pages into this one, and yeah, I mean Malazan, it's I don't know what I think of it. That's the problem. It's like I love the world, I love the characters, I love the story, but I get into this book and I'm like, oh, I'm ready to be done with Malazan, but I don't want to stop reading it.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I'm halfway through Dead House Gates, and I put it down at the end of February to finish out a couple of other books. I still haven't picked it back up, but I am hoping to finish it in March, and then we'll see how April goes if I get to Memories of Ice. I'm giving myself the first 3 books, and then if it's just really not for me, then it's not for me. But so far, I'm liking what I'm reading. I really am. So
yeah. Bone Hunter's about halfway through, and I have to say that so far, I feel like Bone Hunters is the first book that I'm really feeling like I'm following effectively in the first part, and it's not
yeah,
like all over the place. And so that's a good thing. And I've also heard about halfway through the series, things pick up and get better versus the second half versus the first half. Bone Hunter's like right in the middle, so I think I'm just getting to that point. And yes, I like the jersey too. I like all the jerseys. I'm collecting them all. This is one of like 30 some jerseys I have.
well, you got a fan here with Danielle. Yeah, she's liking it.
That,
Um,
that's that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. Bone Hunter's 3 times the size of Gurzel. Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, Erickson just writes
4 times
some
is
massive
1,200
books.
pages.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
that is
House
just
writes
wild.
massive books. Brandon Sanderson. Did you
Yeah,
catch
he
his
does.
Kickstarter stuff that he just released?
Yes, I know. That's pretty. That's pretty wild. And I love some of the reaction videos more like I I don't know if you watched Daniel Green's, but
Oh, I
his
did.
was
Yeah.
funny. He did a live reaction when it was first going,
Yeah.
and you could see the look on his face. I'm like, oh god. So when he dropped book one, and then he dropped another and another and another, I'm like, oh man. Brandon Sanderson is giving every author, including the big name authors like George R. R. Martin and Pat Rothfuss, a bad name.
I know, right? Well, like he says, like, hey, you cope with isolation your way, I'll do it my way, and this is how I handle it.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
admit, if it weren't tax return season, I probably wouldn't have signed on the Kickstarter, but I just filed my tax return. I'm like, oh my gosh, perfect timing. I can't not sign up for this.
Yeah, I signed up
So,
for the ebooks. That's really all I wanted. I'm collecting all of Brandon's stuff on ebook just because I can't have like 20 or 30 books clogging up my bookshelf and
oh
moving it
man,
if I ever have to move again. So I'm like, ebooks are
every
good for me on
every
that.
now and then I think maybe I should consider getting a Kindle because I'm
Yeah.
literally running out of space in my house. I've got 6 big bookshelves downstairs in my living room lining the walls. And I've got a
Mm-hmm.
closet up here on the top floor that is literally full of books. Like half my books are in a closet, the other half are on the 6 bookshelves downstairs. And so like
Right.
maybe I should get a Kindle, but I don't know. I just like having the physical book. I really do. And
I get
it's
it.
I
I
can't
totally
stop
understand.
collecting, it's like, no, I gotta hold the physical book in my hand. I do use
Yeah.
Audible, but I don't like using Audible for things I haven't already read. Like, I like
Yeah.
doing that on the reread and kinda doing that immersive read, because I
Mm-hmm.
find if I don't have the physical book and I'm just listening, it just becomes background noise and I end up missing so much, right?
Yeah.
So reading along as I'm listening, it's definitely a different experience versus reading it on your own.
Oh,
Especially when you get
totally.
the narrator, doing the different style of speaking for different characters, and it kind
Mm-hmm.
of really brings you into that. Especially the graphic audios that they've come out with, where
I've
they got
heard
like the
graphic
full
audios are
cast.
great, and I know all the Stormlight books are on graphic audio, I think.
I might have to get the graphic audio version of those. I've got the Audible for all the Stormlight books and all the Mistborn books.
Yeah.
But I don't have any of the graphic audio for that. I do have the graphic audio for Lightbringer, but not just the
Okay.
standard audio for that. Because Lightbringer is one of
Yeah.
those series I'm going back to reread because I haven't actually read the last book in Lightbringer yet, but I
I
want to go
haven't
back
read
and
any of
reread.
them actually.
Yeah, and it's a good series. You should definitely read it. Definitely recommend that. So what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm listening on Audible and reading along for the
Yeah.
books that I've already read in the series, leading up to the one I haven't. So what I'm kind of looking forward to finding out is the graphic audio version of Lightbringer. Is it like word for word as it's written in the books, just graphic audio adapted?
Right.
Or is it going to be a little bit different because I'm kind of used to reading along with the book, so it'll be interesting to see if it's actually adapted word for word but in a graphic audio style, or if it's written more like a script for a movie where they're going to make subtle changes in how it plays out, right?
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. That'll be interesting for sure. I did listen to the graphic audio on Sandman though, which I think you've mentioned.
Oh yeah. I've been listening to the audible version of Sandman, and yeah, I'm listening to the second volume right now. I listen to it in my car when I'm going places and stuff like that. So it's amazing. And I'm so excited for the Sandman TV show coming up. I just can't wait. It's going to be, I have a really good feeling about it. Tom Sturridge, I think, was a perfect casting for Dream.
Oh yeah.
And, and I think Patton Oswalt was a perfect choice for Matthew the Raven. I'm so excited about that. So
Yeah,
um,
maybe we'll have to have some kind of, Discord watch party. Go
yeah, that
Oilers.
that would be cool. Yeah, go Oilers! You
They
got
they
got
are
an
my
Oilers
number one
fan,
team for sure. Uh,
right?
yes, and I agree with I Anonymous here. Brandon Sanderson books will consume your whole house.
Yeah, they will. Yeah,
So
if you're
true.
not careful, it'll. Yeah,
So true. See, I still want the leather bound Sanderson books, but I'm always like, you already have. It's like I know, but I don't have leather bound.
right.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of those things where I can't see myself actually buying books I already have just because they're in leather bound. But I would never say no to a gift of it.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
Looks like my
Yeah.
dog wants in.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I Anonymous says here, I love Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn was awesome, but it takes willpower and time to get through. And Danielle agrees. Yeah, it does. Mistborn it was an enjoyable series, but it took me a long time to work through the first Mistborn trilogy, and I still haven't read. Era 2 yet. I'm waiting until it's finished. His
Yeah,
last
there's
book
still
comes
the
out in October, I think.
yeah. See, I'm struggling with that. I want it because Sanderson's like an instant buy for me, but
Hmm.
I've got all the Mistborn in paperback, so I don't want like all of them in paperback and then the last one hardcover. And I don't
Right.
want to spend all the money on getting all the other ones in hardcover just to match the last one. So it's like, do I buy it right away or do I or do I wait till it's paperback? Like it's like I want it right away, but I don't want to wait.
Right, exactly. That's why I love my Kindle. I can get it day one if I want to. I don't have to figure out a time to buy the physical copy. But
Yeah,
quick car is
that is
there with
definitely a benefit.
saying hi to your puppy.
Yeah, she's adorable, 13 years old, going on
Oh,
14, but still just as hyper as a puppy at times.
I'm guessing he means that Mistborn Era 2 is not his best, and I have heard that actually. So
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I think the worst Sanderson book is still far better than a lot of other fantasy.
yeah, that is
'Cause,
very true. A
you
lot
know,
of people don't like Elantris, but I love Elantris. I thought it was a great book.
well, Elantris was one of the first books he ever wrote. As far as I
Hmm.
understand, Elantris was actually rejected by numerous publishers.
It was, yeah,
And he didn't actually get it published till he had published some other stuff first, and then finally like, okay, we'll take Elantris now.
yeah,
So, which I want to know what worlds these Cosmere books are going to be in, these mysterious books. And I'm trying really, really hard not to go and watch the videos on them because I want to go in completely blind. So it'll
yeah.
be funner that way, but it is very hard to resist.
Yeah, it is hard to resist. I didn't read the first. I didn't listen to him read the first few chapters, but I did read the basic synopsis and the characters involved for the first secret novel, and everybody was wondering if we're going to get a Hoyd focused novel out of this, and if we do, I don't think it's going to be the first secret novel that he announces. I think it may be one of the four books, but it probably won't be the first one he talks about because Hoyd
Yeah.
is too favorite of a character among the fans. So
I suspecting one of them is a Hoyd novel just from
yeah,
the his announcement video. I'm like, I bet one of them's Hoyd.
yeah. Well, I do now. I don't know how much you know about the first secret novel that he announced. Did you Did you read any of the announcement?
I haven't watched anything beyond his announcement video and the occasional update he's put on Kickstarter. So I'm trying to go in
Okay.
as blind as possible because it's
Yeah.
just it makes it better that way, I
Yeah,
think.
it does. So I didn't know if you knew like who the main character is in the first novel or anything, because I won't say if you don't. Because
I
I do.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, I
I
won't
don't.
say anything then.
I might give in and look it up at one point, but right now
Yeah,
I'm trying.
yeah. I will say that book one is not Hoyd focused. He's not the main character in the story. But I imagine that somewhere in these four books we may get a Hoyd story.
See, if
So
they ever do a Cosmere TV series, just
mhm.
focusing on someone like Hoyd as a world hopper would be a great
Oh,
place to go
that would be
because
awesome.
and the reason I say that is because when if he focuses on that as a TV series, then you won't have those issues of people being all mad because you didn't adapt the book right.
Right?
Right? Because it's just a character who happens to be hopping between worlds. So
Ooh, I like that idea.
all you need to do as a world hopper is you need to portray the worlds he's visited as they're portrayed in the books. And you don't necessarily have
Yeah,
to tell the story of the books. You just have
right.
to show the world as it's in the book. And then everything that Hoy does in those worlds are things that just aren't written into the books. And you can maybe have the occasional event from the books shown in the series, but without actually telling the book stories themselves. And
Yeah.
that kind of adaptation, I think, would be you'd probably avoid a lot of fans going, I hate this," like they have with Wheel of Time, because you're not adapting my book right. And I want to be clear to Wheel of Time fans watching, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's okay to feel that way. It really is. But that is a big thing with so many adaptations, is
It
when
is.
changes are made, people get upset. I totally
Hmm.
get it. I understand it. Not saying they're wrong, and I want to be clear on that. I'm not trying to be gatekeeping this or anything, but I get why they'd be upset. So that, I think, would be an optimal way to adapt anything Cosmere.
I
I
like
still want
that.
to see the
Yeah.
yeah, I want to see the other stuff adapted, but adapting the way where you don't necessarily have to focus on the individual stories of each book, but
Yeah.
show the worlds for what they are.
That would make it more comedic too, because it's all from Hoyd's point of view.
And Hoyt's
and
hilarious.
and yeah, Hoyt's a riot. He's my absolute favorite character just in general over the entire Cosmere, because and they could even title the series The World Hopper or something like that, that. Yeah, but
Yeah, something like that. That would be a lot of fun. And then you could jump back and forth between the different timelines. Like you go back
yeah,
to the beginning of, the Mistborn world, when the Lord Ruler first took control of everything, and we can, go to when people first arrived on Roshar and stuff like that, right?
yeah, exactly. All right,
Favorite
so we got a
cosmic.
hide it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Uh, yes, Corey says hi, Scully,
Yep.
and then
And hi, Bookish Chance. Hello.
hello. Yep. Uh,
Cersei's here. Hi, guys. You're both awesome. Why, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. Looks like Treebeard says favorite Cosmere characters, the stick. I know exactly what he's
Oh,
talking
yep.
about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, why not be fire when you? Because I'm a stick, but you could be fire.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I
Yeah,
I love Shalon.
definitely.
I love Shalon only because she's a reader like me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. Yeah, Shalon's a great character. Absolutely. Kaladin's still one of my favorites, but
Oh,
I'm
by
reading
far. Like if
Good
I could
World
name,
Hopping.
Khaled is honestly the one character I could relate to of all characters I've ever read in any book.
Oh, yeah. He's very relatable. Absolutely. I'm
It,
reading a Good World Hopping novel just now. Oh, Talendor's. Well, thank you, I Anonymous. Yeah. Talendor's Guest is my book.
I've heard of Talendor stuff,
Yeah.
but I haven't actually read it.
I haven't I don't promote it a ton on the channel because I like my channel to be about other people's books, but I've been told I should promote it a little bit more than I do.
Oh, maybe you should.
Yeah. Light Song and Warbringer. Oh yeah, Light Song is cool. I like Light Song's character. Yeah.
Oh, it's been so long since I've read Warbreaker. I barely
It's been
remember
a while
anything
for me
about it.
too.
It is on
Yeah.
my rereads list. I am going to reread eventually, but there's so much on my rereads. I want to reread Sword of Truth. I want to reread Dune. I want to reread Shannara. I want to reread Lightbringer. I want to reread Demon Cycle.
Oh yeah, there's so many books to
I'll go back and
reread.
reread
And
Discworld when I'm done. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, and that right there would be an undertaking to reread it because it's already an
yeah.
undertaking.
And
But
I'm going to
I'm
reread
enjoying
Stormlight.
Discworld though.
Yeah.
What's
I'm
that?
going to reread Stormlight leading up to the 5th book release, because I'm going to just keep doing that.
Yeah, and if we ever get the Winds of Winter, I'm going to be rereading those books prior to the release.
Well, at this point, we'll have to. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah,
I mean, don't rely on the TV show to get caught up.
exactly. Dune.
Dune, totally.
Your list is you're like, yeah.
My list is about
Plenty of
3
time to
years
read.
long.
Oh wow, yeah. My overall list is probably about at least 5 or 6 years long, but my immediate list, I think I put 60 books for this year. So
Yeah, I've got
hopefully,
so much. There's so many books that have been so popular on BookTube that I just haven't gotten to yet. Stephen
same.
King's Dark Tower, Christopher
Mm,
Roccio's books. Why is that drawing a blank on the
yeah,
series name now? But Christopher
Ro-
Roccio's books.
Rockio is one I want to read too. Now I've
Ev-
heard a lot
Evan
about it.
Winters, Dragon, whatever books. They're on
Mm,
my shelf. I'll get to
yeah,
them eventually.
I did I DNF the series. Rage of Dragons was not good for me, but you may enjoy it. You may
Yeah, who
enjoy
knows?
it. So
I
yeah,
bought them, so I'm going to read them.
yeah,
It's
that's
so rare
cool.
that I virtually never DNF. There's one book I could think of that I would have DNF'd, but the author sent me a copy for a review, and it was terrible. And
Okay.
and beyond the fact that there were so many plot holes and poor story execution, just you could
Mm,
tell that the editing was just clearly somebody who did not hire an editor.
yeah.
Like, incorrect words, spellings, things that didn't make sense in sentences. Just it was really
Wow.
messed up, convoluted, terrible,
That
terrible
makes it
read.
hard.
It's like, well, I would put this down, but he wanted me to review it, so yeah, that's about the only one I could think of that I would have DNF'd if he hadn't asked me to review it. But it's like,
Hmm.
dude, you really need to hire an editor. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
that makes it hard because I hate being overly critical. I mean, you want to be honest, of course, but it's hard. It's hard when you have to be overly critical about it too, to have those tough conversations. But
I'm pretty generous. I mean, if you looked at my
yeah.
reviews, I mean, on Goodreads, I typically, a 3 is one of the worst reviews that I've ever given on most books. It's exceptionally rare to go lower than that. I mean, I think I'm pretty generous and easy to please.
Hmm.
And like I'll definitely give a low star rating when I did that to an Orson Scott Card book. Uh,
Hmm.
I gave it a 2 because I just thought it was really dumb and stupid.
Which one was it? I'm curious.
Uh, See, now I can't even remember. See, it's so bad I can't even remember the name. It was a story about this kid that has like these knacks, I guess you could call them, and it lost and found. That's what it is.
Okay.
And just able to this knack to find lost things, and then basically it's a 300-page book, but it tells the same story twice over
Oh
essentially.
my.
It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's
something's lost. He found it. Oh, now a girl's lost, and he goes to find the girl. Woohoo! But the plot holes in the whole story is like, why did this even happen? What was the point? And it was
right.
just a bad book. And Orson Scott Card's a well-established writer. I
He
expected
is.
better
Yeah.
from him. It might be that my tastes have soured on his writing over the years, but I
I've
just don't
I've
think he
only
ever did
read
better.
Ender's Game and then one other book, the first book in a series where he started, where it was about a kid who was part of I think the Greek pantheon or something like that. He was like a demigod basically, and it's an urban fantasy, and I did not like that one. I liked Ender's Game though, so
Yeah, Ender's Game was good, but I think I almost feel like Card is almost a one-hit wonder, almost,
mm,
because other books have sold, but nothing is sold as well as Ender's Game, which was like
oh
the
yeah,
first book he published,
yeah.
pretty
It
much.
could have easily stood alone on its own.
Yeah,
I think, yeah. Hi
yeah,
guys. Yeah, regarding rereads, sometimes I spend so much time rereading books I don't read enough books. Oh yeah,
yeah.
it is
See,
it's a tough problem for
see,
sure.
I found that I have a schedule. That it's not just a reading schedule, what I'm going to read next type
Yeah,
schedule. I mean, I've actually got a routine in place to keep me on track with that stuff that's just kind of become habit. I'll get up at 6 o'clock every day. I work from home, so I don't have to leave the house for work. So I start work at 7:30, but I'll get up at 6. I'll
yeah.
go downstairs, I'll have my coffee, I'll listen to audibles. I read along for half an hour while I'm drinking my coffee, which is helpful because my brain's not awake quite yet. So it's nice to
Right.
have someone reading to me instead of me trying to make sense of my own.
Hmm.
So I'll have my coffee, listen to the book that I'm rereading through Audible, and then I'll have my breakfast and shower and all that and get ready for work. And then while I'm working on work days, I'll spend my hour break time reading the book that I'm reading currently, just not with Audible, but the book I haven't read yet, essentially.
Hmm.
And then on my days off, what I'll usually do is while the kids are at school, at least during the school years, I'll take that school time and I'll sit there and I'll read for like 3 to 4 hours straight, just in the quietness of no distraction. It's fantastic. I love
Oh
it.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and then when the kids come home from school, that's when I'll switch to Audible because I can just plug my earbuds in and not have be distracted by all the kids' noise and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's basically my routine that I have in place to split between rereads and non-rereads essentially. And then
Yeah.
with the Audible, like it's usually half an hour on work days, an hour on non-work days, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then in the summer, because I try to keep the TV and other media off, other visual screen type media off um,
Hmm.
during the day. So like daylight hours, so before sunset, I try to stay off that. So in the summer, when the sun's at like sets at like 20 after 9, this is a great time because after work I can listen to more Audible. I can
Mhm.
go for a bike ride, spend more time reading to my kids, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Which I'm reading The Lord of the Rings to my youngest daughter right now.
Right.
She's, which I'm really happy. I've always felt lead by example is a good thing. So I've tried to do that, and I've tried to read to my kids before, and a lot of the time, like, no, I'm not interested. Nah, this is boring. Don't. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'll read my books, and maybe one day you'll think, hey, this is something good.
Right.
So far, my youngest daughter is the only one that's at this point has shown any real interest in being read to and
Uh-huh.
listening to these stories, which makes me very happy. And that's not to say I'm unhappy with my other kids. It's fine if they don't like, if they're not that interested in that.
Yeah.
But I love being able to read that to her. I'm so happy at least one of my kids wants to sit and listen to me read them a book and that
Mhm.
they're really into this. But I will say that being reading as much as I have is starting to pay off. Even my oldest daughter, who's like just never interested in reading, she came home with a novel for the first time in her life the other day. And like
Nice.
not a comic book, not a graphic novel, a book with chapters, no pictures, and words in a couple hundred pages. And she sent me a picture. It's like, so I finally bought this. She's 18,
Mhm.
which, I would have loved to have seen that when she was 12, but that's okay. Again, that's okay.
Right?
But she said, oh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how happy this makes me to see you actually buying a book, like an
Right?
book.
That's excellent, you
Like,
know?
I'm
What
so happy. And she's reading it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes me so happy. You have no idea.
right.
Right. And then my middle daughter, like, she's really enjoying like these babysitter club books and some other, she's got
Okay.
some kind of middle school graphic novel about vampires she's reading. So I'm really happy to see her doing that. And I've said all the time, it's like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a graphic novel or
Mhm.
a, traditional novel. It doesn't matter if it's on e-reader or physical copy. What matters is you're reading.
Yep,
That's what's important.
exactly.
Like I'm not concerned so much with whether you're what genre you're reading in or what format you're reading in. I want to see you reading. This is a
Yeah.
good thing. There are so many benefits to that, incredible benefits. It
Mhm.
improves your cognitive abilities. You tend to get more people who read regularly tend to have higher levels of empathy for others. And
Yes, they do. Yeah.
it's been demonstrated that a regular habit of reading, like even 20 minutes a day, significantly reduces risk of dementia related illness in older age. And
Mhm.
it's just there's so many benefits. It keeps your mind sharp, it keeps it active, and let's face it, there's some great stories out there.
Yeah.
There really are.
There are some great stories. Yeah. I'm the same way. I really advocate reading and reading what you want to read. I've always told my kids, read what you enjoy. It doesn't matter if it's something I like. Like some of my daughters my daughter doesn't read a ton, but when she does read, it's always stuff she likes. Like the Martian is one of her favorite books. She just finished Misery, and she loved Misery. So it just you got to read. You got to read what you want to read, and it sounds like we got a lot of people here talking about it too. He's reading Chronicles of Narnia to his daughter.
Awesome.
Got a Lord of the Rings reread going on here on Sundays. Nice. And I recently got the Andy Serkis Lord of the Rings on Audible. So I
We
eventually want
started
to.
listening to it.
I haven't started listening to it, but I'm planning a reread at some point, and I'll do an immersive read. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I just upgraded to an annual subscription instead of monthly with Audible because I'm like, I
Hmm.
want all these books. Hey, if I go annually, I get all these credits now. I'm just like download, download, download.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I do the monthly credits. I probably should do the yearly because I think you get a discount.
It's
So
it's a little bit less annually, yeah.
yeah.
And I went for the like I'm on the 2 books a month plan because I
Uh-huh.
realized I was reading more than one or reading slash listening to more than one Audible per month. So it's like I was getting tired of waiting for that next credit.
Right.
I'm like, I just got to go to the 2 a month plan, and that should, in theory, cover me. Should
It should, yeah.
that's the theory anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's funny we talk about it doesn't matter what you read. It's funny because I remember it was really junior high where I actually started expanding what type of books I was reading, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a video somewhere on my channel about this. But I remember in junior high, I was grade 7 or 8 or something. I had a teacher named Mrs. Duff,
Mm-hmm.
and that as part of our class assignments, we'd always have to do a book report on
Yeah.
a book, right? So you could select from some of these selections, which I recommend, or you could choose a book of your own, right? Well, my first book report was on a Star Trek book report. No problem, right? My
Yeah.
second book report was on a Star Trek book report. Okay. Teacher's like, all right, all right. Third one was on a Star Trek book report. It's like, then she said, all right, I'll accept this one, but you are not submitting another Star Trek book report. Absolutely not. You have to read something else, young man.
Right.
So I'm like, fine, I won't read Star Trek. I was raised on Star Trek. I didn't like reading at that time, but if I had to read something, darn it, I was going to read Star Trek because I like Star Trek,
Right.
right? And so when I was banned from submitting another Star Trek book report, I picked up the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My English teacher just rolled her eyes because it's just another science fiction. She wanted me to do more than sci-fi, expand my horizons, right?
Right.
But she reluctantly accepted it. And of course, I was laughing so hard reading that book that I got hooked on Douglas Adams.
Mm-hmm.
But then the teacher's like, "You are not reading any more spaceship adventures for book reports, young man. You better pick up something else." And that's when I picked up Michael Crichton's Andromeda Strain. Then I was hooked. And
Nice.
then I read every Michael Crichton book. And I suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's more than just, spaceships and aliens.
Right.
Right? And then next thing you know, when I was done all the Michael Crichton books, I was like, I need something else to read because now I'm hooked, right? I can't stop reading. I've got to have another book to read. And of course, I
Right.
was also that geek and nerd kid that, was beat up by the cool kids and had no friends at school. So, I'd spend all my lunch breaks in the library reading
Mm-hmm.
books. So I started asking around, and then one person knew, it's like, well, I got this book, Ender's Game, here. Why don't you give it a try? I read it years ago. It was not bad. Well, then I got hooked on reading everything in the Ender saga. And next thing you know, it suddenly I'm branching into fantasy and picking up everything I could read. And now I've got like
Yeah. Everything
700
leads to
books.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
it was good. And, at the time, I remember I hated the fact that my English teacher was making me read something other than Star Trek. But looking back on it, I'm so glad she did
Yeah.
because I would not be as well read and so many different authors and books now if it weren't for that English teacher, Mrs. Duff, which I swear she was 70 at the time she was teaching me. So I don't think she's around
Nice.
anymore. But
Not around. Well, yeah. She spurred in you a love for reading though, so that's good and encouraged you to branch out. So
absolutely. Although the good thing is, even though my actual written grammar is terrible, my reading comprehension and literacy skills were well above my grade level to the point where I was the only one that got away with sleeping through English, literally. Honestly, in high school, I would
yeah.
sleep through English, and then my teacher would wake me up at the end of class. He didn't care because I was getting like 98% grade average in English because I
Right.
was in grade 10, but I was at a grade 12 or university level reading comprehension level and reading literacy level in that sense because I'll read so much, which is another benefit to regular reading. It really helps you grow and expand your literary comprehension and skill level dramatically. You have no idea how many words I've learned just from reading books. I'm like, what the heck is
Oh
that?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I've my vocabulary has drastically expanded being a reader. Yeah, it's been really awesome to have that. Yet another benefit of reading. Yeah.
Oh,
Comics are oh, sorry.
Treebeer is asking what my favorite Crichton book was other than Jurassic Park. Honestly, I think I would have to go with. It's kind of split between the
Oh
Terminal
yeah.
Man and Andromeda Strain. And the reason for that is the Andromeda Strain was the first Crichton book I read, so it's always going to have a special place in my heart, getting me hooked on Crichton. But the
Mm-hmm.
Terminal Man, I can especially relate to because it is guy, a, is a story about a guy who has to go in for brain surgery to treat his epilepsy, something I was born with.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. Well that
From what I remember, that what the process was that he implanted this chip in the guy's brain that basically redirects the energy discharge, which causes seizures, but it stimulates the pleasure center of his brain, and the guy learns how to control it.
uh-huh.
Well, nothing could go right when you have a chip implanted in your brain and can control your own pleasure center.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I bet that resulted in some fun shenanigans.
Yeah, so
Mm.
that's about all I remember from it now, but I remember I really like I really kind of like that's cool. I'm reading about somebody who has epilepsy.
Right.
And thank goodness, technically I'd be cured from it now based
Yeah.
on all technically, but it's not something that ever truly goes away. I think, you know, might have a seizure once every 5 years.
Right.
So it's so incredibly rare. They don't really consider it epileptic anymore, but it's not something that ever really goes away. But yeah, that's a book I really remember because of that. Character's like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's like me. And
Right.
anytime you read a character that's like you in any way, you could really relate to that, right?
Oh yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah, that's part of why Kaladin's depression I could relate so hardcore to, because been there, done that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Kaladin's a great character for that. But that book by Michael Crichton sounds good. I've only read Rising Sun. That's the only Michael Crichton I've ever read. I haven't even read Jurassic Park, although I do plan to. But
Oh, that's a fun one. That's a fun
yeah.
one, Jurassic Park. I love the idea for. I don't think we'd ever actually see anything like that in reality for Jurassic Park. Just
Hmm.
because, well, I think if someone actually tried to do that, there'd be some serious ethical, moral, and scientific ethics issues going on there. But
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the concept of cloning is very, very real concept that's already been proven as demonstrably as a viable technology, right?
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Eaters of the Dead, yes, the movie The 13th Warrior was based off of that. That is
Oh,
based
really?
off of the
Okay.
yeah, Eaters of the Dead, that is based off of the,
Okay.
Viking legend, so it's, uh, what's the name of oh, geez. See, I'm missing it, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what legend it's referencing and what that's about, but it's basically Crichton's version of it. Why is my head going see, when I do live, things always go blank. When I make a video, I've got it noted.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Sometimes I do that too. Yeah. Yeah, I
Beowulf, yes,
recently
thank you, Anonymous.
Beowulf. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with Beowulf, so I love the Years of the Dead Beowulf. Cool, cool. And by the way, if I miss any of your comments, guys, I'm sorry about that. I realize I missed one from Jonathan here earlier talking about DNFing, uh, plot holes and critical errors. Yeah, that can be a
Yeah.
reason to DNF too.
I could overlook grammatical errors, as long as they're not like rampant through every single page and every other paragraph. And it's like,
Hmm.
this clearly wasn't edited. I mean, I've read books from well-established publishing houses that have had the occasional spelling errors, like whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not going to hold the author to that. This is through a publisher. Like clearly they have editors and they just missed something. No big deal.
exactly. It
But
happens.
it happens. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's never a big deal. But yeah, definitely if there's serious plot holes, that could be an issue.
it can. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Years of the Dead. Reading a report from the air. Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
very cool.
that I do
So,
remember from that perspective. So
we talked. You mentioned briefly about Wheel of Time. We don't have to go in too much to that one, but I know you and I had talked about prior to this doing a stream all devoted to different book adaptation
yes.
TV series, and then it just didn't happen for various reasons. But I thought this was a good opportunity for us to shoot the crap and see what we thought about some of the book adaptations. I mean, this is the decade of book adaptations, right?
Oh, yeah, it's insane how much it seems like every new show coming out is based off of a book on streaming
Yeah.
services. On
Hmm.
traditional TV, they're still just putting out their standard stuff, and because all the big production companies are wanting to go straight to streaming. Because let's face it, that's where the market is now.
It
TV's
is.
like
Yeah.
whatever's left over.
Yep.
But and this is speaking from somebody who works in the industry, and I'm supposed to convince people not to cancel their TV service.
Hmm.
If my boss is listening, I'm still doing my job, I promise. My boss is subscribed to the channel, but to my channel, so
Oh,
but
nice.
yeah, I mean, the reality is that That's where the industry is going. That's where the
Yeah.
adaptations are going. And I think it's, regardless of where you work in the industry or not, I mean, that's just the reality of where it is.
Hmm.
And definitely I did enjoy the Wheel of Time adaptation. It's not
I
the way
did
I
too,
would
for the
have still.
most part.
I don't like some of the things they changed, but ultimately, when it comes to an adaptation, my key thing is that an adaptation, I have two requirements. One, you don't change the characters' relationships to the other characters.
Yeah,
That's key
exactly.
for me. Unlike the Sword of Truth adaptation, Legend of the Seeker, which thank goodness they gave it a different name because it was not Sword of Truth, not even close. They changed the characters' whole relationship dynamics for many of the characters and how they were related. Brother became father, father became grandpa, and it's just like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
The second thing that I want to see with an adaptation is uh, it's got to maintain the same overall plot. That's important to me. As long as you're sticking to the general plot of the books, I'm okay with some
Hmm.
changes on how we get there. That's key for me. Like if they called it Wheel of Time, and then Rand was suddenly Perrin's brother, and Moraine and I don't know, Nynaeve was his sister or something like that. I'd be like, "What are
Right.
you doing?" Like, no.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah.
if they decided somebody else was the Dragon Reborn, like, if Perrin became the dragon instead of Rand, I'd be like, "Whoa, stop calling this the Wheel of Time right now."
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm okay with like a few changes. Like the Lord of the Rings had several changes, but like it worked and it was amazing.
Well, the mountain
Um,
rock monsters in the Hobbit movie were never in the books. I thought it was a
right.
really cool part, but they weren't in the
Hmm.
books.
Right.
Right? And Tom Bombadil was nowhere in the movies. I believe
Right.
Shelob came in at a very different point in the movies versus the books.
Yeah, they started the third movie with the last part of book two, with the last part of the Two Towers. Yeah, I kind of like that, kind of saw that too. But overall, it was quite well done. Like I know for a fact that with the Sandman adaptation coming up, they uh instead of Dream being imprisoned for 80 years, he's in this show he's been imprisoned for 100 years because they're trying to make it more modern with cell phones and everything like that. That kind of changes fine. I totally get that. But
No,
and they've changed a few. Some of the casting has made people upset. I'm like, why? A lot of people were upset about I think it's Desire. They cast a non-binary person for Desire, and I'm like, have you read Sandman? Desire is non-binary. Always has been. What's wrong? What's the big deal?
yeah, it's just some things that people get upset about. Just shake my head
Yeah.
like, are you serious? Like, are you really serious? Like, I even heard some people upset about Swan and Moraine's relationship portrayed in the
Oh
show. Now,
yeah.
I will
Yeah.
admit, when I first saw that, it kind of took me off guard for a moment, but then I thought, it's like, wait a minute. At no point in the series did it ever expressly state or imply that Moraine was completely straight, and there was very clearly a close relationship between the two.
Yeah.
And it's even referenced subtly that it might be more than just friends
Right.
at a few points. But so
Yeah.
what
I
threw me
think
off about that
from
is
what
it
I
was a
heard, they're called pillow friends, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
So in the show, it was much more in your face and blatant and obvious
yeah.
versus the books, and I think that might be the only reason why it might have thrown me off at first until I really sat back, like, wait a minute, same thing with the relationship between the waters, especially with the Green Aja and their multiple waters, and some of the obvious relationships portrayed there. And I've heard some people complaining about that. I'm like, have you read the books? Multiple warders, they're often married, their warders. Did you really think that some of those wouldn't be bi or gay relationships? Stop being
Right.
upset. This may not be directly shown in the books, but it's very clearly implied in many different throughout the series. Stop being upset about this. It's not some agenda. Like, this is what's in the books, right?
Right.
Speaking of adaptations, what book series has not been adapted that you want to see adapted, and in what format, as far as visual movie or TV show, do you think would work best?
Oh man, I tell you what that's a tough one. So I really want to see a new adaptation of the Dresden Files.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And they were actually planning one a few years back. It had been it was a soft announcement about it, but then I think it was taken off the table. But
Don't
I
watch the current adaptation. It's terrible.
it is I haven't watched it, but I've heard it's terrible, so I'm not
The
going to even
production
bother.
quality is
But
terrible. It's clearly a low budget adaptation. The production quality was
yeah,
horrible. The acting was pathetic. The characters are nothing like it's just, even if I didn't know it was a book, I would say this show was really bad. Um,
yeah,
but one thing, I was actually talking to my wife about that the other day, and I was saying, Dresden Files would be a good adaptation.
hmm,
And I think they could adapt the Dresden Files without even worrying about what's in the books. Because the concept of Harry Dresden, magical detective for hire in
yeah.
Chicago, like you could just make a show about him investigating paranormal activity in Chicago. And you
You
don't even
could,
necessarily have to go follow the story of the books necessarily. Now, a lot of fans will want to see the stories adapted in the books, 100%, as would I. But I think they could probably adapt just that concept with that Harry Dresden world. And it wouldn't necessarily be people like, oh, you're not following the books. If it's clear said this isn't the books, we're adapting the world and the characters to the screen and telling
right,
stories that maybe weren't told in the books at all. And then occasionally kind of throw some of the plot elements in. But just it's be like the X Files, but with Harry Dresden.
right.
Right.
I I like that kind of, although I still want to see some of the stories from the book, like especially all of the stuff that was in Summer Night, and we won't spoil anything here, by the way, guys. But
Yeah.
Summer Night, especially, I think is a very key story that I think should be adapted, and um, I I just love to see a more faithful adaptation and retell the stories from the books. But I get what you're saying. They could always go beyond just the books and tell other stories that, if Jim Butcher was agreeable to that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The basic concept behind it, I think, makes it doable for both aspects.
hmm,
And the thing with the 20 plus book series or something it's turning into is, I think you definitely want to steer away from doing a film adaptations
hmm,
because there's too many books,
right,
right? Like, are you really going to commit to 20 plus films? I don't think so.
right. Yeah,
Douglas
that's
Adams.
very true. Yeah, Douglas Adams. I have not seen any of the adaptations, but uh, I've heard there were quite a few changes that people didn't like.
That always seems to be the case. Um, I know with the Ender's Game adaptation, people are even complaining, and Orson Scott Card was an executive producer on that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought they did a really good job with that movie
I would argue they did a
overall.
good. I would argue they did a good job precisely because Orson Scott Card was an executive producer,
Hmm.
right?
And that's the key, I think, is having the creator being involved in the process. Like the only reason I'm convinced the only reason Good Omens was as good as it was is because Neil Gaiman was involved.
Yeah,
It's the same with the Sandman. He's involved. He's also involved with the Nancy Boys. Uh, it's so important for the author to be involved. I mean, that's half the reason Game of Thrones, I think, went downhill is because George R. Martin ceased to really involve himself with it.
yeah,
So,
probably.
um,
One, I think Stormlight Archive would be a phenomenal
could
could
be,
be
yes,
a phenomenal adaptation. I think there's way too much there to do. I mean, you could probably make a quartet of movies out of the first book alone.
yeah,
Um, but I also think it's a risk, and I say a risk because we've seen the reaction to Wheel of Time,
hmm,
right?
yeah, we
And
have, and
there's so much in there. It's just
yeah, there is. And I like what Jonathan said here. It'd be great if adaptations were treated like covers by the music industry. You have to stay true to the source material. Exactly. And I think that's what ticks off a lot of fans is and makes it really hard to even want to do adaptations is because the fan bases are so strong. I mean, they
yeah,
really took a risk with Wheel of Time because the fan base can be rather what's a word for it? Well, we'll just say antagonistic.
Yes. Yes.
I don't
They
know how else
absolutely
to put
can.
it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
yeah, and
great. I
but
mean, kudos
not
to him
all
for
of them
trying.
are. Like some fans of Wheel of Time are really easygoing, and others are just like really.
I haven't heard any
Yeah,
backlash on the Dune movie adaptation.
I have
Like
not. Well, I've heard a few things, but not
like a few
much.
critiques,
It's
but not much in the way of backlash.
yeah.
And like I love the movie. I'm going back for
Hmm.
part 2. Like it
Oh, I am too.
you
Completely.
bet.
In fact, I rewatched the movie on HBO after I saw it in the theaters. Like the week after, I watched it on HBO, and I just absolutely love it. Um, I still like uh, David Lynch's Dune.
Oh man.
Despite the fact that it was a terrible adaptation, it's still one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. Uh,
Oh, that's where we'll disagree.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've seen your videos talking about it too. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
Oh man.
I grew up with it, and see, I saw it probably 5 or 6 times before I ever read the book. So I have a little bit of a history with the movie that's essential to my childhood. So I think that makes a difference, maybe too. But
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I that Dune movie came out when I was 5, 6 years old, something like that. So
right,
like what, 86, 87, something like that?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
hope this turns into a long series and not just a duology for the Dune movies.
I
That
hope
would
so
be
too.
amazing.
I hope he at least does Dune Messiah. And Children of Dune. That would be cool. Dune Messiah is so short, he could probably incorporate that into a Children of Dune movie, kind of like Sci-Fi Channel did with the miniseries.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
I could see that happening for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. If anything, an adaptation should really serve as an inspiration. Absolutely, I
Yeah.
agree there. And I think Dune did that. I think it got a lot of people wanting to read Dune that hadn't before.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Wheel of Time may have done the same for people who have never read the series.
Well, in my
Um,
opinion, adaptations go wrong when the author releases creative control for the adaptation.
mhm, I
That's
agree.
in my opinion where it goes wrong. Um, I mean, just as an example of that, Harry Potter.
Mhm.
J.K. Rowling refused to sell the rights to Harry Potter for the
Yeah.
adaptation. She wouldn't have it. It's like, no, this is my story, and if you want to
Mhm.
adapt it, you're going to pay me, and I'm going to have a say on how this is adapted. As a result, she's the first author ever to reach billionaire status,
Mhm.
right? And that just goes. And Harry Potter film series is generally speaking loved by the fan base as well,
It
and it's
is.
because the author is directly involved in the adaptation. Where so many of these adaptations, the adaptations I've seen with that have the least least liked or the most criticisms are
Mhm.
often those adaptations where the author or whoever holds the rights is not involved, highly involved in the adaptation itself. I mean, Game of Thrones is a great example. The first couple seasons, everybody loved. George R. Martin backed off. He wasn't involved anymore. It started going
Mhm.
downhill. Wheel of Time, I mean, Sanderson was on as a quote unquote consultant.
Mhm.
I think he got a producer credit or something, but it's not like he was massively involved in the actual production and had a huge say in what they're doing with the production and how, when, and where. He was simply a consultant on that, right?
Right. And I think that's kind of unfortunate. And he's been very open. He did not have to sign a non-critique document, so he was allowed to critique it, and he has on several occasions he's said things that he did not like about what they chose to do with it. um okay, yeah, Wheel of
Yeah.
Time lost me the third episode. I get it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
so I
look at
think
that
Brandon
as
Sanderson could have been more involved. I wish he would have. Yeah.
if Wheel of Time wasn't books, there are no books at all. It was just a completely original fantasy TV series. I would say from that perspective, it's a decent TV series, one that
Yeah,
I would continue to enjoy. But
much
coming
better
from
than
an
Shannara.
adaptation, oh my gosh, Shannara.
Shannara was the only thing I liked about Shannara was the casting of Al-Anon. I think Manu Bennett was a great casting. Other than that, that show was yeah,
When I
no.
heard MTV was adapting it, I thought, "Are you
That was the
serious?
first mistake.
MTV?"
That was the first mistake.
Well, exact. I mean, I watched it just because it was on,
Yeah,
but there's no way I would go out of my way to pay for a service, whether that's a cable channel if I had to pay for that or a streaming service for that show. I just
yeah,
wouldn't. I watched it because it was there. Um,
exactly.
and looking back, I'd say the same thing about the Legend of the Seeker TV show, which we really need to redo that. I was like, just because despite how Game of Thrones ended, HBO, with the first couple of seasons at least, has proven they are capable of adapting a high end epic fantasy
Right,
effectively. Uh, Regardless of how it ended, like they demonstrated they're capable of doing that. We need more networks dedicated to that. And I've always thought, like, even if it were just a streaming service that was dedicated to committing to these adaptations. Not that I think we need another streaming service. I mean, we got Amazon, Disney Plus,
right.
Netflix, right? But just having like a company whose sole purpose is to effectively adapt these and put the kind of money and resources into it, like I'd be willing to pay for that, just like I'm willing to pay for the bucks.
Oh yeah,
Assuming they keep doing a
absolutely.
good job.
Yeah,
But then
that's
I'm
the
also
key. If
easy to
they do a
please.
good job, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
We got a comment here from Harfoot about The Witcher. Yeah, I've heard that the similar in style to Conan, and I thought The Witcher was a great adaptation. I've only read the first three books, but so far it's stayed pretty consistent to the story and
I-
the
Yeah, I might take some
yeah,
heat for this, but it's one of the few TV shows or medium adaptations I like better than the books, and I say very few.
yeah.
Mainly because the writing style of the books, it's a good story. It
Hmm.
really is. Like, I love the concept, the story behind The Witcher, but I just found the writing style was just kind of boring at times and dry.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
for
think it
me,
might be partially the translation from Polish to English too. I think Polish seems to be a little bit more wordy in English. That
yeah,
might be part of it, but I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's, and I think honestly, and again, this might be a hot take, but I do actually like the Hobbit movie adaptations better than the book. The book
Oh,
is
okay.
great. I just
Interesting.
put a review out on that. If you haven't seen it on my channel, like, I love the book. I'm not really big into the whole poetry within the story type thing that Tolkien likes to do.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with poetry, but just I'm like, poetry, move on. Like, it's not
Hmm.
a big thing for me. But the book, what I love about the movies is that, and again, I'm not saying the book is bad. The book is great. We all know it's great. But what I like about the movies is the movies really delve deeper into the lore of Middle Earth, so much
Hmm.
more beyond what we actually see in the books.
That's true.
Uh,
They do incorporate a lot of things that aren't in the book, and I
and that's
liked
why I like it more. So
I liked the adaptation overall. Like I think Smaug was done amazingly, and I thought Martin Freeman was a great casting for young Bilbo. There were a lot of things I liked about it. It was just I think three movies was a bit of a stretch for that one. I think that was my big problem, but overall, I thought it was really good. Jolene says here, definitely agree with Drew. Game of Thrones opened up some doors, but yeah, it has become a quick cash grab. You're right, Jolene.
yeah,
And hi, by the way.
yes, hi. Oh, Treebeard book reviews. What's both your favorite shows that are not book adaptations? So to answer that one, I mentioned it earlier, Trek. I am a big time Trekkie. My favorite Trek series, Next Generation, but definitely Voyager, DS9, Next Gen. That's kind of the generation I grew up with. But definitely the Trek universe is my favorite non-book adaptations, or it's
Mm,
been adapted to books, I guess you could say, because there's a lot of Trek books out there. But
yeah, that yeah,
definitely,
reverse adaptation, right?
that's definitely my favorite TV shows that are not an adaptation. Would have to be Star Trek, hands down, all the way. And it's hard to pinpoint just one episode or one series because I, for the most part, love them all. Although Prodigy really feels like Star Wars trying to be Star Trek.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've watched it or if
I
anyone has
haven't.
watched it, but well, there's those Star Wars cartoons. Star
Yeah,
Trek
right.
Prodigy is a cartoon Star Trek, and it really has a Star Wars look while incorporating Star Trek stuff. So it feels like it's trying to capitalize on the Star Wars cartoon stuff we see on Disney Plus, and it really feels like a Star Wars trying to be Trek. um,
Right.
Although Lower Decks is hilarious, absolutely.
I've heard that. I've heard that that's really really quite good. Um, and I haven't. Next Gen was my favorite as well. And Treebeard mentions that as well. But I enjoyed some of the others. I still like the original series for the most part, but Next Gen is always my favorite. I have not watched Picard. I have not watched any of the new Star Trek stuff. I saw all the newer movies that they made,
Yeah,
which I thought were quite good actually. I enjoyed
yeah,
the
they're decent.
direction they went with it.
My biggest issue with Picard is not so much the show itself. I like the show.
Yeah.
It's okay. But my biggest issue with that is that I feel like they're trying to capitalize on the original fan base from like the next gen days by
Hmm.
having those next gen Voyager characters or whatever in there. And the show itself is just kind of it's okay. I'm enjoying it. I'll watch it. Cool. But
Yeah.
what I really feel like the Trek franchise needs to do is stop trying to capitalize on the fan base that grew up with next gen. And I'm not
Mm.
saying ignore that fan base, because if you make a Trek that is completely different and outside of the Trek universe that all of us fans are used to, you're going to tick off a lot of people. You want to keep that crowd, of course. But what you want to do is you want to bring in a new Trek fan base that isn't
Hmm.
dependent upon seeing those older characters
Hmm.
for viewership, right? Picard's going to attract people who love Next Gen because Picard's in it.
Hmm.
But some ideas that I've always thought would be cool is a Trek series about first contact. Let's get Zeph from Cochrane on the screen. Let's see what happens on Earth. Let's have a series based on that after first contact. Even if
Yeah.
you never watched Trek, you basically understand the concept behind the first contact Trek lore. I think this would
Right.
bring both fans who are familiar with it, but also a new group of fans. You could get new characters in there. You don't need to rely, and you could get characters in there that have only ever been mentioned but never seen,
Hmm.
and or even one about Starfleet Academy. Why not? Let's follow a group of cadets at Starfleet Academy. It's still in the Trek universe, but you're not dependent on seeing Picard and Riker and Troy and all that kind of stuff. So you're keeping the franchise alive, like CD's saying there. You're keeping the
Yep. Mhm.
franchise
Hey,
alive.
CD.
You're still going to attract the fans from the next gen era who like the universe and Trek in general, while simultaneously getting new fans in there.
Right.
I think that's a good way to approach that, and I just don't see the Trek franchise doing that. Like, even with Prodigy, they're throwing in Voyager stuff with Chakotay and Janeway. Lower
Yeah.
Decks are always having, like, these little cameos of next-gen characters. Picard's got Picard in there, right?
Right.
Discovery's the only one that's got a whole new cast and a whole new characters and whatnot, but so Discovery, I guess, is doing that in a sense, but there's so many ideas that you could work with in that universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it would be cool to see a new direction for Star Trek. As far as my favorite shows that aren't adaptations, that's hard to say because I watch a lot of adaptations.
As do I.
But I will say some of my favorite TV series have been Lost and the Transformers, the original Transformers cartoon series.
Oh, I
I mean,
used to
come
watch that
on.
all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like I mean, I own the box set on DVD of all the Transformers cartoons, as I do with Lost. I own Lost on the DVDs too. So
Transformers more than
more than
meets the
meets the
eye.
eye.
Robots in disguise.
Transformers roll out. I'm yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Got I love
classic.
it.
Well,
Oh,
have you
okay.
ever heard of a
Bye,
show called
Harfoot.
Corner Gas?
Thank
Yeah,
you for
bye.
joining us.
Thanks for joining. You bet. Have you ever heard of a show called Corner Gas?
No, uh-uh.
Oh man, it's a Canadian show, probably one of
Okay.
the favorites up here. I don't know
Okay.
how far and wide it might have gone internationally or whatnot,
Yeah,
but
I've never heard of it.
oh
So
my gosh, it is absolutely hilarious. If we're going to talk favorite TV shows that aren't adaptations, Corner Gas is hilarious. Um, it, the basic concept, it's about life in small town rural Saskatchewan.
hmm.
The little tiny
Okay.
town where nothing ever happens.
You got a
It's
fan here. CD's
cool.
with you on that one.
Oh, like I know it's on
Oh,
Crave
Dan
TV.
is too.
Oh, awesome. Treebeard as well. But yeah, like Quarter Gas is just fantastic. It is absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
And just, I mean, if you just think, how would you like to watch a show about a guy who runs a gas station?
Yeah,
Like
that would be funny. That
sometimes I
would,
think of it as the Seinfeld of Canada because it's a show about nothing really.
yeah. Yeah, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, Seinfeld's another one that I absolutely adore. I'm always rewatching it with my son and stuff. Yeah, it's a great show. So, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well,
So
I don't know if it's available in the US, but if it is, maybe
oh,
sometime I'll
there
check it
you could
out.
probably find YouTube clips or even possibly even full episodes on YouTube, maybe, I don't know.
Probably so.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Jonathan's
great.
saying The Sopranos. I've heard The Sopranos is really good. Never watched it.
Heard that too. I haven't watched that either. I've also heard Weight Raised by Wolves on HBO is
Oh, I've heard
good.
that's good.
It's on
Yeah.
my to watch list. I haven't got around to it yet though.
One series that was actually really good, and I don't hear it talked about a whole lot, is the new adaptation of well, it's a direct sequel to the graphic novel for The Watchmen on HBO. So it picks up where the graphic novel left off, and it's actually really a really good show. It handles issues of race and everything really well, I thought. So
Oh well, definitely. I've got so many on my
Gabagool.
watch list right now. It's insane. Like I think I've got like 50 shows on my watch list between a
Oh
whole bunch of
yeah.
different
I've got
platforms.
some, and then so many are coming up. Like His Dark Materials, I'm still waiting for season 3. It's such a good show.
I totally
Um,
forgot about His
The
Dark
Umbrella
Materials.
Academy is coming soon for season
That
3.
that's also on my watch list.
Oh,
The
I love
Umbrella
it.
Academy.
Umbrella Academy's awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
So
there's so many good shows. Although I do find the best shows tend to be adaptations these days, as
they
much as some
do.
of them are hated.
Yeah.
But I really think that's because, at this point, I think Hollywood's run out of original ideas, so
It
they're
seems
saying, "All
like
right,
it.
who's on
Yeah.
the bestsellers list?"
Yeah. I
Right.
agree. Yeah. It's just all the stuff rehashed.
Yeah,
Um,
so much of it.
Speaking of adaptations, Foundation.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
it's been a bit since I finished it. It's hard to
Curious your
say where
thoughts.
how much I like the show,
Uh-huh.
but I think I mentioned this when we talked about our foundation stream, but it's been too long since I've read the books for me to really say, well, this is a great
Mhm.
adaptation or not. As a TV show, I enjoy it absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do know Foundation is one of those series that is difficult to adapt because it does span. But I mean, some books are just hard to adapt even when they don't span thousands of years. But Foundation
Mhm.
itself does. Like the first book itself isn't just like this short little time frame,
Right,
right?
exactly.
And despite its small size, like what 300 or less pages, the first
300
book.
less, yeah. And it's very and the information it gives you about the world is very piecemeal.
Yeah,
It's not they don't give you a lot of detail about the world. It's more focused on one or two characters for the most part.
yeah.
And I think that's what I liked about the adaptation is they did their best to try and fill in the gaps there with what might have happened. And a lot of people might not have liked that, but I thought it was cool.
I like what they
Uh,
did with the emperors. I know that wasn't part of
yeah, that
the
was kind of cool. It
that
wasn't
wasn't
part of the
part of the
book,
original
but
books, but
yeah.
at least not in that it wasn't presented that way. Like we knew there was an emperor there, but the way it
Hmm.
was presented in the TV show, I thought that was really interesting. Where you have because the whole point of Foundation is about society, the evolution, rise and fall of society through time.
Hmm.
And so I thought it was really interesting how they portrayed. You got the younger, so there's the past, the present, and the future,
Hmm.
all portrayed with the young, the middle aged, and the old version of the emperor, and three of them together are emperor. The emperor is the embodiment of past, present, and future. So I really like
Exactly.
the way that was done. I thought that was a really awesome creative choice, to be honest.
I thought it
Uh,
was too.
and
Yeah.
especially essentially, I was going into the show as if I hadn't read the books because it's been so long. I just remembered the basic concept and that I liked the books.
Yeah.
So I was still kind of going into it as if I had never read the books in that sense.
As a
And
sci-fi concept, it was quite an amazing
yeah,
show. Yeah.
yeah, just fantastic. I love that concept. And luckily it's one of those science fiction stories where you could effectively suspend your disbelief and go with it. I mean,
Hmm.
there's some things in science fiction just like, really, come on,
Yeah, but
that's
some stuff
ridiculous.
that just would never happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in my opinion at least, it's like the ring world. I mean, sure, the Dyson sphere concept, hypothetically, conceptually, sure, it's not impossible, but the chance of it ever happening are just slit nil, right? So there are some things that pop up in science fiction that I just feel like can't really happen in reality. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand some things like transporters are there just for plot convenience, really, and
Mm-hmm.
I could accept that. But I like a science fiction that deals in plausibility,
Mm-hmm.
plausible enough that I can suspend my disbelief for the reality. And I think the whole foundation concepts do that well. We know
Yeah.
cloning technology exists, so clearly that's evident in the show with the three emperors. The
Right.
sky bridge or whatever they call it. I mean, it's more plausible than a Dyson sphere, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Right?
true. Could potentially happen. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't think it ever will, just because I don't think it's actually that practical. But it's still more plausible than a Dyson sphere concept, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like a really long docking station to the planet.
Pretty much. I just feel like something like that in reality would be too susceptible to damage from micrometeorites and collisions
Yeah,
with other things. Like, it's just not worth the risk. You're better off
exactly.
just flying up, right?
Most
But
definitely.
yeah, we'll see how the second season of Foundation goes. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the second season of Foundation. Not so much because I didn't like the show, but because
Hmm.
honestly, I'm not feeling Apple TV is providing enough for me to really feel like it's worth continuing the product
Yeah,
itself.
I hear you. It's I subscribe to everything. Like I have the Apple bundle, so it just comes with it. So
Yeah,
that's kind of nice. But yeah, they don't provide a whole lot of content other than Foundation, honestly. So
yeah.
well,
I
and
tried watching
Snoopy.
Invasion. Yeah, I tried
Snoopy's
watching
on
that
there.
Invasion show. I don't know if you tried the Invasion show they got
I
on there now.
didn't. I
I started
saw it,
watching
but
the first episode, the first little parts in English, but then it moved on to like stuff going on in Japan. There's no subtitles, they're all talking Japanese. And it was like 5-10 minutes of just Japanese conversation back and forth and no subtitles. And I'm like, okay, this is just dumb. Like, are you trying to sell to an English audience? You need subtitles for this. How could I really
right.
get invested in the show? And I don't have a clue what's going on. All I see is these people talking Japanese. I mean, sure, you might sell it in Japan where they understand what's being said, but it just I was just like, this is stupid. So 15 minutes into the show, I shut it off and I'm like, all right, that's it, Apple, I'm done. It's just not worth it for Foundation. It's not worth it for just seeing Foundation, which are really the only two shows that I was really that interested in on the platform.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
hopefully
hear
they get
you.
more maybe if they start having more content that'll be worthwhile, I might sign up again. But
Yeah, same here. That makes sense. I can appreciate that. Yeah, Dan wants to see John Gwynn's books adapted, so does CD apparently. So, yeah, those would probably be good. I haven't read them, but I am going to eventually. So,
I think the list of books that
um,
should be adapted is about 1 billion books long.
oh yeah, easily at least.
Yeah, it's just insane amount.
Well, we are coming up on the time that we need to wrap up today. Unfortunately, this is going to be a shorter stream. I know you've got stuff to do, and I do
Yeah.
as well, Drew. Did anybody have any final questions? And then I'll let Drew lead us out with reminding us of what's coming up on his channel. Any further thoughts you want to ask Drew?
All right. So
Well,
we'll see
well,
if something pops up. But yeah, just
yeah.
as a reminder, next week on my channel, I'm going to be having my 5-year booktube anniversary stream. I'll be kind of introducing, going over my Patreon, going over my first video, and then a kind of AMA. So it's kind of a combo 5-year booktube anniversary, AMA, 500 subscriber live stream. Speaking of which, Chas also has a Patreon, so you should check that out. He
Thank you
doesn't
very
like to
much.
talk about it, but check it out. I'm a
Once I hit
patron.
500 subs, I'm planning on talking about it more. But
I'm a patron of Chas. Go check it out. I just launched my Patreon. Well, kind of a relaunch. I tried it for a bit and then put it on hold, but now that I'm at 500, that's there. So definitely tune into my stream next week. I will be posting on my Discord, by the way, a general invite link to anybody that wants to join me on the stream, because that's just going to be open to anybody if you're in my Discord. So definitely check that out. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to cringing and critiquing my first video. which is going to be cringy but worthwhile.
Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that, and yeah, looking forward to the stream. And if you don't subscribe to Drew, you need to check out his channel. Just a phenomenal guy. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he talks about a lot of books that you don't see much on BookTube, which is good. What We Do in the Shadows is on Apple TV, and that's good. Okay, cool.
All right.
I've heard good things about that. Cheers, Jonathan. Thanks for tuning in.
You bet.
Questionable jersey choice. Oh, burn. I'll look into the Discord. I'm new on there. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, glad everybody could join us here. And Drew, thank you so much for being a part of the stream with me today. This has been a lot of fun. I've wanted to get you on the channel for a while, and we'll have to do it again. We'll have to do a part 2 at some point. So.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots more. I mean, we could do something with the Lord of the Rings show when that comes out in September.
Ooh, yeah, there we go. That would be cool. I'd like to do that. Can you put a link to this YouTube, to his YouTube down below, and his link to? Oh yeah. I'll definitely get
Drew's,
that.
Yeah, Instagram, just at Drew's Book Reviews. You should find it there.
Yeah, it pops up pretty quick.
And I've got links on my videos as well to my Instagram.
Yeah.
So
apparently your Instagram didn't work for some reason. Okay, that's weird. Sometimes YouTube cuts off stuff in the description, so it doesn't put the whole link for some reason. I don't know why, but I've had that happen with me before. Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Drew. Been a real pleasure. And until next time, guys, remember I've got Dr. Philip Chase coming up on the channel on March 26th as my next guest for Chaz and Friends. So stay tuned for that, and make sure to read more books.
And keep on reading.